Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Ayo Makine. Good morning. Today is March the 9th, and it is a Monday morning. Oh, International Women's Day. Definitely something to celebrate. So happy International Women's Day to you all. Again, welcome to the show.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting day for the People's Democratic Party. You know, they've been factionalized. Well, two factions, two groups, different judgments have been flying all over the place. One of the most recent ones is Ibadan, which validated the Turaki-led leadership. But today at the courts here in Abuja, there will be a judgment that has been consolidated. So we've got a man on the ground there, Friday, who is standing by to bring us up to speed on what he's seeing at the moment as we expect the courts to begin sitting. Morning, Friday. Tell us what is going on now.
And their supporters are in court. We also have the Abdulrahman Mohammed-led group and their supporters already in court. Even though the court has not started the session, but supporters of these two groups of leadership of the PDP are already in court.
At the moment, we have seen images of key personnel arriving. It does appear as though both of them are expecting the pendulum to swing their way naturally, which is going to be the case. And was there any indication that, from what you saw of their body language, if you could read their minds, what could you tell us from what you saw about them?
Well, it's pretty difficult to say something in that light as we speak. But what I can tell you is that from the body language, both sets of leaders who claim to own the leadership of the party, they're optimistic that at the end of the day, they will get justice. I think it is instructive to know that it is a court of appeal, which means that some of the judgments have already been were given earlier at the lower court, the high court, either the federal high court or the state high court. So this is an appeal to those judgments that were delivered at the lower court. So for some of them who won at the lower court, obviously, they may be thinking also that they will also win at the court of appeal. We also know very well that for those who didn't win at the lower court, they are also hoping that they will get justice at the court of appeal. So the end of the day will actually determine the whole situation. Is too early for one to say that, oh, this section of those that are in the court of appeal are hoping they will win or they will lose. But we do know that at the end of the day, judgment will be delivered, and there will be victors, and there will be vanquished.
So, other than those key personnel of the party who you saw, because usually some of these cases, you see different groups who expect or who are somewhat confident that the pendulum will swing their way. You see their supporters all over the place. So for today, did you see any such groups with supporters who are, very confident that this judgment will go their way today?
As we speak, there are no such groups yet. Like I said, the session has not begun yet. So it is possible that we'll get groups that will come later on, maybe as the judgment continues. It's possible we'll get there, but as we speak, there's no such group in the court premises as we speak.
I imagine that there'll be a lot of caution on those leaders who maybe they may not even want to speak at this point in time because expecting this judgment, they're kind of cautious. But to some, they think, well, it might be academic because some of the, well, quote-unquote, bigwigs in the party have bolted to another political party. But in any case, this judgment is still going to be relevant to a lot of other members of the party who perhaps are waiting to see what happens today before they take their next steps. Is that right?
Exactly, as you stated it there earlier, I approached quite a number of the leaders of the party from both groups. I'm trying to avoid using the word faction. From both groups, the Abdulrahman Mohammed-led group of leadership of the party, and then the Turaki-led group of the leadership of the party. I approached both of them, and they told me to hold on until the judgment is delivered. And one of the excuses they gave why they cannot entertain any interview before the judgment, before the court sitting, is that they do not want to say anything that the court will interpret to be prejudice. They don't want to say anything about the judgment that has not been delivered. And so when you said it's possible that some of the leaders may not want to talk, it's exactly so. They don't want to talk, and they have also instructed their supporters not to speak to the media until the judgment is delivered this morning.
Okay, Ayo.
I'm interested, Friday, in what the environment is looking like. Usually when judgments like this are going to take place, there's a likelihood you're going to have a lot of supporters on this side and supporters on that side. It'll be a very interesting thing to see. Is there any such in the environment right now, Friday?
Yes, like the clip I sent earlier from the courtroom, we have the supporters of both parties. When I say both parties, both groups, seated in the opposite direction. But when some of the leaders walked in, we also saw handshake between, for instance, we saw handshake between Senator Samuel Ayamu and Turaki. So some of the leaders, they were kind of fraternity, but the supporters are seated apart in the hall. Outside the courtroom, there are no supporters. Like you can see behind me, there are no more supporters. Earlier on, I saw a few staff of the People's Democratic Party just standing behind me here. I tried to engage some of them, but it's like the instruction was passed or handed down to them not to entertain any interview. But I can tell you that as the court proceedings continues, you know, some of them will be tweeting what is the updates in the courtroom. I'm very sure, judging from precedents, that is where you see groups outside that jubilating or those things you talked about earlier. We can't be expecting it. It may come up later in the day, but this morning, there's no such.
Very interesting. So another interesting thing to now find out would be what time this whole proceeding is likely to begin, because usually when the courts, calls a time, one would expect that it will happen at the exact time, but then this is what we have now. What do you see? How long do you see this taking? Because, hey, it's an appeal court decision, isn't it?
I can tell you that it's going to be a long day at the appeal court. We have 9 consolidated appeals that the justices will be delivering judgment on this morning. 9 of them. They are all bordering on the validity of the Ibadan elective convention that held November last year. And so I can tell you it's not going to be a tea party. It's not something that will take 1 hour or 2, even when it is not possible to predict exact number of hours it's going to take the justices to deliver their judgment. But I'm pretty sure that it's not something that is going to take 1 hour or 2, because there are 9 consolidated judgments, including the former governor of Jigawa State, who was challenging his exclusion from participating in that convention. We have the Wanchuku, the former People's Democratic Party State Chairman's Forum, challenging his expulsion by the then Damagu-led NWC, and a couple of them. All of them put together, 9 of them. They are not judgment that will just take 1 hour. I can bet with that. But we cannot say how many hours exactly it's going to take, but it's going to be a long day.
And I'm wondering how that is even going to pan out. You said already that it's like the 2 parties are optimistic. Sometimes I wonder, Friday, journalist to journalist, sometimes I wonder whether we are not, the laws, particularly the Electoral Act, is duly considered on all sides. With the new active Electoral Act now, I wonder whether you think either party is certain that based on this law, as it is right now, they're on the right or on the wrong.
If you take your mind back and look at the trajectory up to this moment, you'll notice that the courts have ruled at several points in time either in favor of Group A or Group B. And it is in line with the court rulings or the court judgments that the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has also taken a decision in the last meeting they had to recognize the Abdul Rahman-led caretaker committee as the authentic leadership of the party. So when we're talking about the electoral law, I know that the justices, they know the electoral law. And whatever decisions they will be taking, they will put that into consideration as well. And I'm also very sure that the electoral umpire also understands the electoral law, and whatever decision is taken, that will also be put into consideration going forward in their decisions to engage with political parties. Then for the groups, the political parties, in this instance, the two groups that are claiming ownership of the leadership of the political party, I'm also sure because they have legal representation. Even within the party structure, they have legal advisors who should ordinarily understand the provision of the electoral law. So I believe that they should understand it, and that should guide their actions going forward.
All right. All right, Friday, we do know, I mean, as you've told us, different members of the political party are already arrived. They have already made their way into the premises, and so today will be a follow-up because earlier a three-member panel of the court had met February 12th and reserved judgments, which is now going to be today on those consolidated cases. So we'll be getting updates as we progress. Thank you for your reporting this morning, Friday.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we're turning attention now to security matter. Security agencies say a coordinated operation involving the FCT Police Command, the Nigeria Army Brigade, Guards Brigade, and the Department of State Service has led to the rescue of 20 kidnapped victims following a gun battle with suspected kidnappers. Police say the victims, abducted from parts of the FCT and neighboring Niger State, were rescued after operatives tracked the suspects to forests located across state lines. Now, 2 suspects were arrested while others fled with gunshot wounds, and arms were also recovered. Let's have a look at what some of them did say.
At my residence in Kubwa on Thursday night by 10:56 p.m. I was kidnapped with my 3 other children. The experience was terrible because I've never experienced such. The next thing they said I should lie down, and that's why they picked my daughters and they later picked me, and we started entering the bush. They took us to the bush part. All through that night we were walking till when we get to their camp on a hill path. Then the next day again, all through the day they kept us in a place, blindfold us. Then yesterday night, we walked all through yesterday night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. this morning.
It was a horrible experience. It was so bad. A lot of things happened along the line. We were so much beaten, put to hunger. You know, it was so excruciating. It was a bad experience, actually. It was when we trekked all the way from Abuja to Kaduna, and then they were still telling us we will still be taking us to Katsina. That was when all hope was lost. Yes, actually, we asked them this, they tell us. So they told us that by this time we would have started making our journey to Katsina State. So we are going to collect each person, each of the victims, 5 million naira each. That it's non-negotiable.
What does this operation tell us about the evolving tactics of kidnapping networks around the nation? And how effective is the current security response? So to discuss this, we've got Wilson Alego, former AIG of police. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good morning.
So this particular scenario, a good thing that they were rescued. The joint efforts which we've seen, which many thought, Oh dear, this should have been the dominant narrative with all of the cases we've seen previously. So for you, I mean, being the former service person yourself, what stood out for you with this particular rescue?
Well, first of all, I will congratulate the officers for this remarkable achievement. But more importantly, you succeed when there is inclusion, when there is togetherness. Because when you see police, military, DSS, and other teams working in a coordinated, collaborative manner, where you reduce, you are humble, you are flexible, you are energetic in such an operation, it leads to more achievement. And so what stands out for me is the element of coordination. The element, that means they shared security intelligence, they met, coordinated, and what I think stands out for me is that this will send a clear message to the criminal elements, those who have made crime their commercial way of living, that it will not be business as usual, and it will instill confidence in the mind of the public that, look, we have faith in the capacity of the state to protect us, that these agencies working together, based on intelligence they receive and carrying out that analysis, have made this achievement. So I think what it goes to show is that the public will say, oh, so it is possible, because what we have been hearing is people are let out, no arrests and all that. But this is a case where the number is large, arrest made, gunshot, weapon recovered. And I think, so it brings confidence. And that is a lesson to other security outfits in other places. Now look, you cannot win alone. It's a teamwork. And you've got to subjugate your own glory to the collective glory.
Okay.
Because what Nigerians want is they are safe.
So you see, the FCT, the map of FCT,
Yeah.
along that Kubwa, the
that's
Buhari
true.
axis. So some activity has happened there some time ago. Once
true.
a while you get to hear this kind of thing. So it just appeared to many people that these guys appear to be testing the waters. They just want to see what's going on, because this scale, it's not happened in this scale before. But you've seen some of these incursions here and there. But where Kubwa is it indicated, because, I mean, cross-border.
Yeah.
So chances are that they came through, and then the narrative from these guys, well, they took them to another state. So definitely, security along that axis needs to be beefed up.
Yeah, but if you beef up, because when you are Kubwa, you are talking of Buhari, you are talking of Garam, and you see, when they mention Kaduna, when you leave Buhari, there is road to Jere, and then from Jere, you are going to Kaduna Road. But one other place, the place they call Kagarku, that is on the way to Koi. When you get to Jere, you just turn right. So what this goes to tell us that it is a good thing that the police in the FCT, the gas brigade, and the DSS, I believe is the FCT command of the DSS, it means their counterparts in Niger State. Kaduna is a little bit far, because they must take you through Niger to get to Kaduna. So when they mention Kaduna, you know, when you see the modus operandi of the kidnappers, you pass through a stream. This side, they take you back, they take you there, and then it's like, this is night, more or less, you can't see properly. So they tell you, you think you have covered the whole length of Nigeria. That is, because they can never leave the water area. They live, because they must drink water, even the victims and themselves. So the activity is usually around the streams. So they take you through, come back, go to another route, and all that. So I think this collaboration within the security agencies now should go beyond the FCT, but extend to Niger State. And even Niger State Police Command, we are not talking about the Suleja Area Command, can work with the FCT. And I think such borders should seem very seamless, because you take from Niger, you come to FCT, you take from FCT, you get to Niger. So what it does happen is, I think there should be more presence, infiltration, especially the DSS and the police intelligence, because of the activity along this border. More importantly, there is even a polytechnic. It's also, I think, Doben Polytechnic, so that one day, I mean, they don't just storm such a place and carry people to embarrass government, because all they try to do. And what I have seen with this kidnap gang, I think the idea of taking them to Katsina, what they try to do is to look for the bigger gang and sell. But
they sell those who they kidnap?
Yeah, to the bigger kidnap gang. And
so the bigger whoever buys whoever they kidnap now get to demand a bigger ransom.
Ransom, and those ones are more established. And why it's dangerous for this Kuba, Biagi, and then Buhari and all that. And I think it's important to do quick collaboration. I think the FCT and Niger are in the same zonal command, so that the AIG should pay particular attention. The reason being that, you know that Kaduna used to be harassed, Kaduna Road used to be difficult to traverse, to travel. So the thing comes from Serikin power. You know, those who were in those days were coming from Zamfara. They come in through Alawa, come in through parts of Niger, Chukuba, and get to the dam. Follow the dam and get to Serikin power. But I think they've been able to cut them off from that area. But this is a good achievement. But I think it's important if the AIG zone 7, covering FCT and Niger State, it has to come in and see how he can unify the efforts of the FCT and Niger Police Command. But again, another thing that I think from this arrest, a lot can come out of it. And I think the intelligence response team can also come in.
Because clearly what we've seen is that these groups do communicate among themselves.
Oh, they do.
They have that network among themselves, which makes it a little more, well, do we say interesting or challenging for the security agencies. But what this has shown is they also operate, they look for the weak security spots, usually along the border areas between states, where they know there might not be that heavy security presence, and then they just strike. But you also have identified streams. They have to find a way to sustain their livelihood.
Because they
so in those areas,
come back, go, come back. And, you know, in every security, when you look at the terrain, also aids in...
if it's rocky, mountainous, you can see people who are approaching.
Well, because the idea is, if you have motorized patrols along the major streets, you have some foot patrols, they may not be able to go to this.
The FCT bought some motorcycles for the FCT Police Command some time ago.
Oh,
FCTA.
Yeah, because now, since the motorcycle bandits, the armed bandits that operate on bike, it is important that the police, I know that in those days in Kogi, we have few bikes, but I don't know the number. But I think there should be a need to have a number that will be able to confront, so that they are not just left to occupy and own the bushes. By the time you buy a motorbike, and I think it shouldn't just be 5, 10, it should be in good number that will carry, just like they do, mimic them, so that when there are 1 or 2 confrontations, they know that they have to devise another method. But hoodlums rarely change tactics. So
they have a signature.
They have a signature.
So if you study the signature of this group, you can get the next one.
Because by the time they have made this arrest, by the time the telephones, because it's very critical, those telephones, the forensic analysis, you are going to get, it will lead you into more. So, first of all, now the security agents have increased the faith of the citizens in their effort and capacity to protect them.
Ayo, you know how it is within the border towns, Lagos, Ibadan, Lagos, Ogun State, how you talk about how the states, both states, need to develop or build roads in those far-flung border areas. So that's how tricky this terrain really is. But this one is a little more challenging. But a good thing that combination of security agencies got this result. So hoping that the playbook next time out will be, look, if we achieve results this way, how do we improve upon it? Go ahead with your question.
It's like you read my playbook this morning, Chamberlain, because the next question I was going to ask Mr. Anolego is this whole state police thing. One of the things that we understand from the case on our hands right now, Chamberlain, is that the bandits, or whatever we want to call them, or to use the president's word, the terrorists, fled from one state to another. When the state police system kicks in, Mr. Anolego, how will that play out? Because hitherto, it's easy for them to crisscross. But now with state police, when that system kicks in, because it doesn't look like the president is going to compromise on it, how will that play out for those in those situations? What will it affect in this using this kind of experience as an example?
Well, I think first of all, I'm sure you know my position. I've been in your studio severally. I know my position on state police, but I will not go to state police. I think there should be they should develop a memorandum of understanding between the states that when a crime cuts across state borders, the federal police gets involved, and then there should be a working document that will allow state police to cross without, what do you call it now, without much encumbrance, but that is not the word I want to use, without much red tapeism. I think it should be fluid. Otherwise, criminals are going to take advantage and utilize. So in developing the framework that the IG has set up a committee, and I think this is something the committee should look into. Otherwise, criminals are going to take advantage. But our commissioners of police, right now what they do, most commissioners of police who know each other well, have an understanding, tell the divisions within the boundary areas that, look, once there's an offense, there's a kidnap in this place, when they come, the police from the neighboring state will come. Please cooperate with them. So I think that is the way. But I think as part of the framework that has been developed, it's something they should talk about. And because most of our states, most of them were the same state, then they were divided and all that. So what I think is they should develop a kind of a working document, a collaborative document that will make it almost seamless for the borders. But initially, I think it might pose some challenge.
Well, it's that challenge that I think we'll need to work against, because at the end of the day, and this is where we sometimes miss it, most of the time we're looking at the numbers, but really we're talking about people's lives, people's property, people's destinies here. And I don't think that fact should be lost on us. Now, in that same vein, we understand from this conversation that from this, the reports that Chamberlain read earlier, that these guys fled into the forests. I would have expected that if the forest guards were as active and effective as they ought to be, I'm not sure whether they would have been able to escape the way they did. Or is it a problem of numbers, of strategy, of breaking intelligence? What exactly do you think happened here?
You know, it's not possible for the forest guards or anything for that matter to cover every inch of the forest. And I think that is something we must take cognizance of. Secondly, this operation might have taken place at night. And when you are conducting this kind of operation, you try to minimize leakage of information, because you really cannot trust everyone. So it is not possible that if it took place at night and it's in a heavily forested area, it becomes a little bit easy for them. They might not even run too far. And it depends on the equipment that they have, like night vision Google glasses, that you wear, that will give you leverage over them. So I think the issue, number one, when you are going for this kind of operation, the kind of equipment you go with, and the number of people you share, information of your strategy with. And this must have only been discussed within the police, the DSS, and the military. And they thought, they believe they could. Maybe they had already thought they had cornered them, but I think it's not possible that every inch of the forest. But the good thing is that they have some of their members. Those members they have should now help in knowing their gang members. So I think that's what can happen. So terrain might have played a part, and the idea of not wanting the operational strategy to be divulged to unauthorized persons.
Perhaps one other thing to consider in this, because, various states have different levels of policing, not necessarily policemen, but they have different levels of policing, one thing or the other. Lagos has LASMA, has Neighborhood Watch, and the rest of that. Kano has his bar, and a number of others like that. With the plan to decentralize, so to speak, the policing system in the country to the states, devolving some powers to the states, how effectively do you see it that the crime rate will be significantly reduced if and when that happens? Because I'm not sure that the non-kinetic strategies have also been approached as they should. Your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, let me say, more or like non-state actors, I mean the unofficial security or volunteer security groups, the vigilante and the rest of them. Yeah, I'm sure most states might integrate some of them, and that is why we think those that will enter the state police should be properly screened and recruited on the basis of what they are able to bring and training. Right now we have problem with training. The training institutions are a complete, total state of dilapidation. So that is going to be a problem. And the non-kinetic, at least the community is prepared, I think, if properly approached and engaged. They are prepared to deliver, to give information. But I think there is a disconnect. Like you have, under the National Security Strategy Document 2019, you have the National Security Council, the National Defense Council. Now, when you go to the states and the local government, there is a kind of disconnect. Most local government, they rarely have security meeting. This time they try, but as a former law enforcement officer with the privilege that I had, it would take something major to happen before they begin to rally around to have meetings. But if these meetings are taking place constantly, members might be from the ward level up to the local government level. And with proper membership of such, you are going to be able to develop the early warning system. Because it is this, when you develop this early warning system and you think of a means of response, that you can have total security. Right now the numbers are not there. But if we have the three-level security structure, the federal, the state, and local government functioning, it's going to bring down crime. In policing, and that is why in some crime, even the regular police officers are don't always carry weapons. Because you can do quite a lot by community engagement. And the Nigerian community is a very willing community. But they want confidence that when they give this information, just like the kind of achievement recorded by the police and others in the FCT through collaborative effort, those are the kind of things you need to build confidence in the mind of the public, that these people are working for you. But I think whatever you do, whether you have state police, you have a federal police or not, you've got to have this structure that will resolve certain problems and bring the police and bring security to the doorstep of everyone. So the non-kinetic is very, very, very critical.
All right.
They must work alongside the kinetic.
Good place to live in, Mr. Wilson and Alegu, former Assistant Inspector General of Police. Thank you for your time this morning.
Pleasure is mine.
All right, well, back in a moment. Stay on with us. It's International Women's Day, a moment to celebrate the achievements of women across the world, of course Nigeria, but while also reflecting on the persistent gaps in equality, opportunity and representation. From leadership and science to climate advocacy and community development, women continue to shape conversations that define our collective future, yet many still face structural barriers that limit their participation and impact. So, what progress has truly been made? And what more must be done to ensure women are not just included but empowered to lead? To discuss this, we're joined by Dr. Felicia Morgan, who was recently elected as a member of the United Nations Group of Experts on the Marine Environment and Socio-Economics for the 2026 to 2030 cycle. She joins us virtually. But we also do have Siembe Oteye, Gender Advisor at Action Aid Nigeria, here in our studios. Good morning. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Morgan, good morning. Thank you for coming on as well today on the program.
Thank you so much, Chemba. I'm glad to be Chemba. I'm glad to be Chemba.
Okay, I'm getting a look. Let's see if we can just quickly sort that out. But Dr. Morgan, let me start with you. So, for you on this this occasion, what is, can we say, the most important issue? Because of course there are issues. So what stands out for you above all else?
Okay, what really stands out for me in this particular day, I kind of reflecting back at the origin when this started, when women were struggling, campaigning to have access to good jobs, to be recognized in every area. That was back in the century, the 20th century, So now we are standing out for me because really that's what is standing out for me mostly is that people are now getting aware. And then as we are getting aware, everybody's joining to sing in the chorus, and it's getting louder actually. The importance of having women in the space, to explore themselves without inhibition and things like that.
Can we say then that the right messaging is being put out?
Yeah, the communication strategy is really very, very. We can never get a perfect, 100% perfect situation, but it's really. I would say it's very high. It's very close to perfection. So the communication strategy is going on very well, and the most interesting thing is that it's so classified. It's not just for women up there in the kind of high realm, but it also goes across to women in the we could consider the community women. So everybody is getting aware that that we have this opportunity to explore, just like any other human being, pursue our socio-economic activities in this space. So what is needed more now is to keep on, upgrading the communication strategy the essence of it all, you know, kind of telling them that, oh, with this now, if you acquire very good education, if you not just a formal education in the space that you are, you can be like anybody. Let nobody, you are not inhibited. No, let nobody deceive you. You have equal access to it all.
Can you compare the messaging in terms of what were the impediments or the hurdles once upon a time, whatever time you fit in, and then now? What kind of hurdles were there then and now? Is it still the same or has it changed?
The hurdles we had is that there was that barrier, that stigmatization, that lack of awareness. Some people don't know themselves. They are not even aware of themselves, you know, the potentials in themselves as women, you know, because of culture and things like that. But now, I wouldn't really say that it's 100% all those things are 100% not in existence. They are still there, but you can rate them very, very low. If you compare the fact that now that, for example, in Nigeria, we have up to 41% or slightly above that of women now working in the formal sector, and even the gender index has shown that we are, though the gap is not yet completely closed, but we have achieved 61 or over 60% success in closing the gap. So that shows that the communication strategy is working, but we let it be organic. It keeps changing based on the society where we are now. Now we also have more means of communication. Back in the days, I remember when we were kids, that there was a particular time to wake up to, you have to stay to watch the television, maybe from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock or so. But now the televisions are on 24 hours. We have WhatsApp, we have LinkedIn, we have all sorts of communication strategies, and these are being used to also amplify what you are talking about.
Okay, give me a moment. Let me come to Siembe here. I mean, your gender advisor for Action Aid. I mean, those days it wasn't there at the time. Let me use a phrase which is, I guess, now popular as a result of the interview the weekend. Is the glass half full or half empty for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, thank you for having me. For us, we would say half full because, I mean, we have faced a lot of barriers over the years, you know, in gender, the progress towards gender equality. Yes, a lot of progress has been made. Nigeria is ranking at least a bit higher in the Global Gender Gap Index, but then we still face systemic barriers. Barriers to education, to health care, barriers to political participation for women, barriers to economic participation for women as well. So as much as we are sending out the messages, as much as we're working with government, with the private sector, with civil society organizations to, you know, promote gender equality and give women and girls access to what is their right. You know, we're not asking for a privilege. These are rights. So we are working together to make sure that, you know, the progress towards gender equality is substantial. You know, we can take a leaf from countries like Rwanda, countries like Sweden, like Iceland, that have done a lot on women's political participation. It is because the government is intentional about giving women and girls their rights, giving them access to the things that they are supposed to have. So for us, while the progress is there, we still are calling for the government. We are calling for individuals. We are calling on civil society organizations, women's rights organizations, to continue this fight. Because when women have access to education, when women have access to healthcare, when women have access to economic opportunities, and of course, when women find themselves in positions where they are able to influence policies, you know, in the National Assembly, for instance, it's for the betterment of Nigeria. It's for national development. So gender equality is not a women's issue. It's a societal issue. So we call for access. Give us access to healthcare. Give us access to education. Give us access to political participation. Give us access to economic participation and stand to gain the benefits of including women in these spaces and giving us the rights that we are that we deserve.
So when you say political and economic barriers, what specifically do you mean?
Yeah, so when you look at political participation, for instance, right, in the National Assembly, we have just about 5%, less than 5% of women in that space, right? Because men have taken over the space. It is very difficult. It is very difficult for a woman to come out and vie for a position and be voted for, right? And because of that, we find out that policies that are supposed to be for the betterment of women and girls are not really being worked on in the National Assembly, which affects, you know, the rights and the access that women and girls have.
You say men are taking over the space. They say this is the same complaint that young people have. They say older men have taken over the space. So it's a democracy. You vie for, put yourself up for election, you win or you lose. So in that regard, it may be misconstrued when you say men have taken over the space. What should they have done?
Yeah, so when we talk about systemic barriers, right, we talk about issues around cultural norms, issues around gender-based violence. Now,
so, but that's different from making it a democratic problem.
No, so when women have access to information, right, when women have access to education and they're well-learned, well-trained, well-educated, right, they're able to maybe vie for a political position. That's on the one hand. On the second hand, when cultural norms, you know, try to hinder women from having access to education or to even political participation, then how will they get there? Because we've grown up in a society where in some parts of the country, women are not allowed to go to school. Women are not allowed to be in a political space. Women are not allowed to be in a decision-making space. So these are the cultural norms, these are the issues, these are the systemic barriers that are in place, right, that are hindering women from participating at the level that they should. And you would, of course, know about the reserved seats for women, right? That's one of the reasons we're pushing for the reserved seats for women. Because when we say that we want more representation in parliament, it looks as if, oh, we want to take over the men's space. We do not want to. So create extra seats for us. And for these seats, allow women only to vie for those positions, so that at least we can have a space within the parliament to make decisions that favor the country. And when half of the population, we're almost half of the population, right, in Nigeria, and when almost half of the population is not allowed to be in spaces where they can influence policies, then it means that the policies that are there will only favor the half, the men. And that's why we're asking for the reserved seats bill. So these are the hindrances that are in place for us.
Ayo.
You know, let me begin with you, madam. You know, perhaps, you know, this generation of women, your ilk, people at your level, you really do have this battle, you know, cut out for you. And as madam said, she needed to cast her mind back to when this whole conversation started, and here we are. Is there any plan to build the young girls today, the children, the young girls in secondary schools today, so they don't have to fight the same battles you are fighting? Because this has gone on for too long, and I'm not even sure how this generation, who is way more impatient than you, will cope if they have to fight the same battle.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that. So what we're doing, remember when Dr. Felicia said that communication has improved? We are carrying out lots of sensitization. You know, like I said, working with government institutions, working with civil society organizations, with women's rights organizations. We're working with communities themselves. So we're working in these spaces to sensitize young girls on what their rights are and what they should have access to, right? The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria also has mentioned all of the rights, that we have as citizens. And there's a lot of sensitization happening in schools, in communities, with in-school youth, as well as out-of-school girls, to be able to understand what their rights are, to be able to understand how to advocate for their rights and to claim these rights. So yes, a lot of sensitizations are happening, a lot of awareness campaigns are happening, and we are trying to bring up a generation of girls who understand that their rights as girls are actually human rights, and they can advocate for them and they can actually claim them.
Dr. Mogo, yesterday, in the spirit of celebrating the International Women's Day, there's quite a lot of videos that several people made to draw attention to the multi-faceted responsibilities of today's woman. I stay with you on that same conversation about the future woman, the young ladies today who are already seeing so many things, have seen their mothers go through a lot and have decided that they're not going to allow themselves to go that route. What kind of guidance should mothers today be putting in their children's, in their young girls' heads so that they can own the space in the future and not have to compete, but pretty much own the space that they get into, be they men or women?
Thank you very much for that. Actually, the question, what I tell my own girls, which is what I'm telling any girl out there, which is what I'm telling girls that I adopted as my mentees, is that you have to believe in yourself and know that you're not competing with anybody, and that you shouldn't ask for any position or anything because you're a woman, because that is even an insult. You should just aspire to be as qualified, focus, be as qualified as the counterparts, your male counterpart, and feel free. Know that the sky of the space is so wide, just like we have the horizon, and that just like birds are flying without hitting their wings, you can carve out your own niche, so that even if nobody likes your face, they will like what you're doing, they will like your output. So you get there because you're already pillar approved in that area, and people will end up seeking for you. That's what I tell them. I use myself as an example that, see, where I started. I went to a community secondary school. I went to a public university. And then I found myself working for the government. While I had that opportunity, I was attending meetings, doing everything just like any individual. But then I will always want to focus on what I'm doing. And here I am after retirement. I'm being sought for. Like this UN position, I never applied for it. United Nations got my contact and then called me, had a meeting. Federal government of Nigeria was very proud to project me. African Union was African group in the United Nations. We are very proud to also submit Nigerian lady's name, because they trust the CV and that she will win it. So that is it. So I keep telling them, focus on building the career you've chosen.
Dr. Mogo, sorry for me to jump in. You played a role as well in the emergence of the Blue Economy Ministry. How easy or difficult was that for you?
Yeah, that is I can give it to myself. I don't know whether it's because I'm a Capricornian and they said that we are stubborn goods. Maybe it's true. But when I had opportunity of going to United Nations General Assembly, and they were talking about blue economy. Through the Abuja Convention Regional Seas, actually, they groomed me as one of the experts to negotiate for Nigeria. When I came back, I was then with Nimasa. I felt that Nigeria should launch into this. So what I did into blue economy as a sustainable sustainability pathway of achieving better goods and also exploring the ocean economy. So when I had the opportunity of being the committee chair of Day of Seas and Ocean in Nimasa then, I asked the then DG, Dakuku Peter said, I said, DG, can I choose a topic by myself? He said, oh, why not, Dr. Mogo, go ahead. So I chose partnership key to sustainable blue economy. Everybody was saying, oh, what is this? I said, till we finish. So when we finished, everybody was about going. I said, no, we haven't finished. They said, Dr. Morgan, what do you want? I said, we have to have a committee that will drive this interministerial committee. And it was given to me by the chairman, chairman of NEMASA, India Garba. So then we started the committee. I was struggling to let it stand before I retired because I had few years or even months to retire. So I was happy that we pushed it to the minister. The minister now pushed it to the presidency. I had retired when the presidency approved that committee that it should be expanded. But I was called back. And to still support what I was fighting for, I decided to deposit a book when I was retiring. I wrote a book, Regulating the Marine Environment of Africa Towards Sustainable Blue Economy, the Nigerian scenario. It was still a post. I was sharing it to everybody so that they should read, so that our people. Then eventually, when I was asked to continue nurturing it, coordinating it, and all, till we now got into the present regime, and it was a ministry made out of it. So it's just that pushing against the wind. If you can.
All right, I'm afraid we'll have to anchor at that point. We'll have to thank you, Dr. Felicia Mogo. She's a blue economy expert, as you heard, also the founder, African Marine Environment Sustainability Initiative. Thank you for your time this morning on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
CMB, Oteyi, Gender Advisor, Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so just before we go, we'd like to let you know that a section of the office of the head of service of the Federation, the building in Abuja, went up in flames in the early morning today. But eyewitnesses say the fire was first noticed in one part of the structure at about 8:20 a.m. That was before we went in the air, with smoke billowing from different affected areas. But the incident is reported to have occurred at Section C of the head of service building, within the head of service complex, as members of staff in the building were seen moving away from the affected area while emergency responders were alerted to contain the situation. So the media departments, all of those areas stating that it's limited to Section C of the building. So at the moment, no casualties, and we hope it stays that way. So the relevant authorities, of course, expected to move in and address this scenario. Well, earlier we also did tell you that the People's Democratic Party will be getting a major decision today from the FCT High Court here in Abuja. Different dignitaries. One of the recent persons who have arrived is the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed Daisi Samani Turaki, one of the leaders of the group. His own group is the chairman of a certain group, and then you have Abdurrahman as well, who's chairman of another group. So they are all there in the court as we speak, waiting, maybe not with bated breath, to see where will the pendulum swing for the People's Democratic Party. Time will tell, but that will be today. And we will bring you all of that scenario when we get them. So keep it locked here at Channels. Well, that wraps it up today on the program. We do thank you all for watching Sunrise Daily today. We will see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
Straight to the business studios.